I found intimate messages on my mom's laptop and decided to show my dad. He was speechless. My parents, both 42 years old, have been married for 20 years. Recently, my notebook broke, and I needed to do some research for school. I asked my mom if I could use hers, and she kindly agreed. However, while using her laptop, a message popped up with the phrase, "Hi, love." Curious, I opened it, assuming it was from my father. What I read made me feel sick to my stomach. The message was from one of my father's friends, a married man whose daughter is in my class. Shockingly, the conversation dated back at least a year and included photos and videos. It was the most horrifying thing I had ever come across. My father treats my mother well, takes her out on dates, helps with chores, and seems to be a loving husband. I couldn't fathom how she could endure such betrayal. My father is currently away and will return tomorrow. I have copied all the evidence, emails, messages, photos, and videos, and saved them to confront him. I am struggling to contain my emotions as I can't bear to look at my mother without feeling disgust. My dilemma is whether to show them both at the same time or confront my father first and let him handle it. Additionally, my friend's father is also cheating. Should I say something to her? Interesting update. I want to express my gratitude for all the comments and support I received after posting about my situation. Shortly after sharing my story, I reached out to my older brother, 24 years old, and confided in him. He was just as shocked as I was and assured me that he would come to see me. He lives in another city. When he arrived in the afternoon, I showed him everything. Unfortunately, he was unable to process even half of it due to the overwhelming nature of the evidence. He made a copy to secure it and stayed at a friend's house to avoid raising any suspicions with our mom. The next day, our dad returned from a trip, and my brother and I seized the opportunity while our mom was at work to confront him. I approached my dad, claiming that I had found something on my mom's notebook that I thought he should know about. I showed him the evidence, and as he began to read through it, he became visibly distressed and eventually vomited after about 5 minutes. Thankfully, my brother, who was studying medicine, was able to help calm our father down, but he was clearly in a state of shock. After some time had passed, we resumed our conversation. I asked my dad if he had any prior knowledge of this or if there was some kind of arrangement between him and my mom. He denied any awareness of the situation, confirming what I had suspected all along. I also questioned whether it was right for me to show him since it wasn't technically my business, but he reassured me that I had done the right thing, emphasizing that I am a part of the family. I then asked my dad if I should inform my friend's mother about her husband's infidelity, but instead of leaving it to me, he decided to call her and ask her to come over. She arrived with my friend, and my father proceeded to disclose everything to her. She was devastated and cried a lot, admitting that she had suspected his infidelity but didn't know with whom. She inquired about how I discovered the truth, so I handed over the evidence, their IDs, emails, and nicknames. She went home to verify the information and later returned with confirmation that her husband had been involved in an affair for about a year with not just one, but 2 women, my mother being one of them. Surprisingly, my father had assured my mother that she was the only woman in his life. I asked my friend for forgiveness for not telling her sooner, but she expressed understanding and assured me that there was nothing to forgive. When my mother arrived at night, she was visibly anxious to see my brother at home. My father confronted her about the situation, and at first, she denied everything. However, when he pressed her further, she started crying and eventually confessed to what had been happening. She sobbed, expressing regret and insisting that it wasn't supposed to happen, that she didn't want to hurt him, and that my father was the only man for her. She admitted that she was carried away by emotions and that the other person meant nothing to her. She promised to eventually stop and tell the truth, begging my father not to make any hasty decisions and vowing to do whatever it takes to prove that he is the only man for her. Throughout this emotional exchange, my father remained silent. In the end, he packed a suitcase and asked if we were going to stay. I decided to go with him, and the 3 of us went to my uncle's house nearby. He cried all night. I told my brother that I wouldn't live with her even if my dad comes back, so he offered me a place to stay with him. The next morning, my mother called me to talk. Reluctantly, I went after my brother insisted. She expressed that it was never her intention to hurt my father and promised to do everything to be a better wife and mother. She inquired about how my father found out, and although I told her that I had informed him, I didn't disclose any details. I expressed that I hoped to forgive her one day, but not at the moment. I made it clear that I don't want her present at my birthday or graduation party, and when she began crying again, I left. Some of you might say that I see the world through rose-tinted glasses, that not everything is perfect, and that I didn't understand what my parents' relationship was truly like. Maybe you are right. Perhaps I am naive and don't comprehend how the world works. But after yesterday, I realized the damage that betrayal inflicts. I would rather die alone than inflict such pain on someone else. Who am I to understand what's right? I won't respond to comments because I've already discussed a lot in the previous post. I'll try to answer some questions that I think people might ask. Do I regret it? No. I am unsure if my father will seek reconciliation. However, I doubt it, as he has already consulted a lawyer about divorce, and in such cases, betrayal works in favor of my father. Some may wonder why I didn't speak to my mother first. It seemed pointless to do so. She had a whole year to come clean. What difference would it have made if I had confronted her first? So she could confess? But what good would that forced, insincere confession have achieved? Sometimes people need a harsh reality check to awaken them to life. Have I always been angry with my mom? No. Until last Thursday, our relationship was perfect. How do I feel about tearing two families apart? I feel nothing, because I didn't destroy anything. They did that when they chose to betray each other. But what if he is abusive or doesn't meet her needs? If he is abusive, then she should divorce him. But what about her needs? Well, what about his? By that logic, if she is seeking someone else, it means that her needs are not being met. But it also implies that his needs are not being fulfilled and he didn't betray. Let's get 1,000 subscribers on this channel. Love you.